to a brand new series, A Victim Bites Back. What kind of victim, you may ask? Some would say a victim of fashion fatigue. Not true at all. But others may say, quite correctly, a victim of old age. I'm about to be 78. That's very, very old indeed. Far too old to be embarking on a 10,000-mile drive across Europe and North Africa.
My drive starts early in the morning, about 6 o'clock, from Civilization, London West 2, to Dover, Folkestone and the Eurotunnel. Onto the train. On one of my trips I saw a huge fox that had been run over. A disembodied head on one side of the motorway looked at me, a bushy tail on the other side, and hundreds of bits in between. It looked quite happy. A good way to go, I thought. Fast, terminal, instant.
Well, it's Christmas time and everybody's celebrating even before you get into the Eurotunnel.
I was once asked how would I like to die. I said to be eaten by a tiger. At least that way I'd end up inside the most beautiful creature on the planet. A victim bites back. How do you bite back from death? Who knows? Vegans puzzle me. How can they say a chicken deserves life more than a carrot? An avocado never bites back after being eaten with vinaigrette.
So we're all set. If you knew how many years I've gone either originally on the ferry or on then the hovercraft, and of course when the tunnel opened I've always come through the tunnel, which I've always found very efficient. So basically we leave the UK and we enter the EU in France in about half an hour's time. One of the reasons I decided to do this series was because it is so easy now to make. One person with a smartphone and a laptop can do the entire work. About 40 years ago, I came up with an idea for a different type of travel show involving different ingredients, based on the mighty Alan Wicker's shows from decades before, but adding other aspects. Since then, many have taken the lead from Entertainment USA. Michael Palin, Simon Reeve, Joanna Lumley, Michael Portillo, some very good indeed. But I felt the time had come to move the concept forward, so please forgive any amateur mistakes, repetitions, bundles, skips, cuts. I'm without a team of dozens, it's just me and my trusty steed. Like Don Quixote jousting at windmills, the man of La Mancha, or the boy and his silver lady. Boy, 78, and the Rose is not much younger. Oh, and I shouldn't forget, of course, my trusty iPhone and my MacBook Pro. I shall be meeting people, I shall be talking various topics, I shall be playing some music. I hope you enjoy it. Before I go on, I suppose I ought to tell you who I am. I shall be doing my travels, sometimes not just in a car, sometimes on boats and even in horses. I started off, luckily, as a teenager, writing and singing a song which sold 9 million copies around the world and went to #1 in several places. It was called Everyone's Gone to the Moon. This isn't Everyone's Gone to the Moon. It's a Tom Petty song that I recorded a couple of years ago. Ways to be wicked.
Hold it pretty well. I can watch your little eyes light up while you are walking me through hell. Well, I've been your fool before, honey, and I probably will again. You ain't afraid to let me have it. Oh no, you ain't afraid to stick it in, stick it in, stick it in. Hey, you know so many ways to be wicked. Honey, and I probably will again. You ain't a
it up really well. The changing room doors are fake, just decoration. You can see out of them as windows in the rooms. It's very stylish with paintings on the walls and a Rolls Royce in the foyer. My car tried to mate with it, very embarrassing. The only thing is, do not try to book during the French Open tennis tournament. All the players stay here and it's full. It's just across from the courts. Paris is a great city. I come here several times a year, usually by car. But there's really no point in showing you all the normal things like the Eiffel Tower and the Arc de Triomphe. You've seen them anywhere else. What I love about Paris is, firstly, of course, the food. Secondly, the people. I have a lot of friends here. But thirdly, it's a really beautiful city. Rather than be superficial about it and show you the obvious, I thought I'd mention the fact that I think humanity this century has suffered from superficiality. People these days only want to think in three-letter terms, preferably tabloid headlines. Depth of thought has disappeared, and I think that's part of what is destroying humanity these days. Well, after 5 hours of swimming, which I try to do every day, it's back to the car and off to Biarritz. The road from Paris to Biarritz is long and straight, but the motorway goes on and on and on. It's between 8 and 9 hours drive, the longest of the trip, apart from the south of France to Rome in Italy, and then back from Rome. Sometimes I go up to Venice and then on to Munich in Germany. The toll and the petrol cost several €100. Lots of music and audiobooks, often spoken by my friend Stephen Fry, to whom I dedicated my novel, Thomas Love Peacock Love Tom, available at all good bookstores and through Amazon as hardback, paperback and ebook. I'm a victim of the desire to write books. I have bitten back. I love Biarritz. I came here years ago and was most impressed, staying then at the Palais, can't afford it now. The Atlantic Ocean buffets the walkway from the hotel down to the beach on stormy days with enormous waves and sprays. Even today the views are fabulous, and the little town has grown and grown absolutely enormously from the tiny hamlet it was when I first came here. Then the road into town was only trees and forests until you suddenly reached the Palais. Now it's got loads of houses and estates and buildings and everything going on for kilometres, including my new hotel, the Garage, a brilliantly converted garage which I stayed in for the first time and thought was fantastic. It's what you might call a boutique hotel, constructed last year from the garage of a big hotel next door. It's comfortable with wonderful steel baths in the bathrooms and all the facilities needed for me to sleep in luxury and clutter up with my travel stuff. It's not, however, the famous luxury hotel Le Palais. The Hotel Le Palais, where Napoleon and Eugenie used to live years ago, and where the King Edward VII made the new Prime Minister Asquith after Henry Campbell Bannerman had just died. Was actually built for the Empress Eugenie, Napoleon's wife, in 1855. Then it was converted into a luxury hotel, and in the early 1900s, it was all the rage. The King of England, King Edward, King of the United Kingdom, King Edward VII, used to come and stay here for his health, as did many aristocrats. Luxury Place was severely damaged by fire in 1903 and then reopened in 1905. became the place to stay in about 1908 when King Edward stayed here. And it then closed in the 1950s because it became dilapidated, reopened again in the 1960s, and I stayed here in the 1970s and early 1980s. It is one of the leading hotels of the world, and it's gorgeously upholstered, looks fabulous, has the greatest view you could ever imagine, terrific food, it's very posh, and I think it's very, very classy. As we look around Biarritz, I'd like to return to the topic of superficiality. I'm a great believer that the huge problem in this century has been humanity falling for superficiality, because none of us have the inclination all the time to think deeply about anything. We simply accept the tabloid headlines, the 3-word indications of what the world is all about, and we don't bother to think deeply anymore. Well, that's the vast majority of us. A few do, but I think the vast majority just form opinions on literally a few words, and they go, well, that's what it is. It's usually one extreme or the other, and will guide our lives, our attitudes, our policies, our support for policies on that. That causes incredible problems, not just wars and diseases and natural problems, but everything else that comes with it. The way we cope with things these days is a total disaster. Anyway, back to Biarritz. May I please recommend it to you as a place to come if you want somewhere interesting for your summer holidays. Well, let's hope the sun comes out. If you come here in the summer, it's raining at the moment.
Hip hooray, hip hooray, the sun has got his hat on. Hip 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 hooray, the sun has got his hat on and he's coming out today.
The road from Biarritz into Spain goes across the Pyrenees. Just after I crossed the border, after doing the toll thing, a little grubby car pulled up beside me. Out gets a burly man, fat, drink in one hand, either beer or coffee, it was the morning, smartphone in the other, filming the rolls, then coming over to me, nods to lower the passenger window, because of course I drive on the right-hand side, smiles, he's got no hands free, gestures with his head to lower the window, which I do. I assume, one, he's a tourist, because many tourists like to film the Rolls Royce for no good reason, but do. But two, he could be a policeman. Have I speeded or something? But nothing to show for it. No identification, no uniform or anything. Three, crooks. They often try to extract money by asking you, could you please give them money, or even saying you've broken the law and you need to pay them money. Anyway, looks at me. Espanol? No, I say. Je parle français. Français? He says, no, I'm anglais, I say. By then, I decided he was not a tourist, so I gently pulled away. He'd been leaning on the window, spilled his drink, dropped his phone, which I think was broken, swore loudly. Now, I reckon he was a rogue cop. Many of the local cops try this sort of thing on with wealthy tourists. They either say one of your light bulbs isn't working, or your indicator's stuck, or you've been speeding or whatever, and it's a fine of €500, but give me €400 and we'll forget it in cash. Well, they didn't follow me in the car, so I assumed that it was just a con. He was a horrible man, fat, burly, sweaty, greasy, smelly, clearly a crook. But that's the way things go when you travel around Europe and indeed the world. I had to top up petrol on the Spanish motorway. Can you believe the Spanish motorways are only 2-lane? Absolutely insane, with the lorries blocking one lane. I can't understand why they do that. The only plus is they don't charge you anything for going on the motorways, but it does incredibly limit your speed, which I think you have to do 120 kilometres per hour, but it does say 80 from time to time. I looked closely and the 80 was only when it was raining. I mean, how somebody's meant to know that, God only knows. Anyway, what can you do? So I'd stopped to fill up with petrol, and the pump wouldn't let me put any petrol in. So I'm looking around to see if they can do something about it. And this fat woman, who was obviously in charge of it, was out of the shop and waddled back to the shop. So I gesticulate to her. She gestures to me, come here, she beckons and goes into the shop. So I go in and she says, okay, that's €55, please, which was clearly what the last person who topped up needed to pay. And I said, no, this is what you have to do. I can't get petrol in. That wasn't me. Oh, okay, she said, no problem. Come with me. And she leads me back out to my car and looks at the opening and does everything and thinks, no, that all looks fine. Of course it's fine. I'd opened it, ready to put the petrol in. Oh, well, she said, and picks up the nozzle with diesel and is about to plunge diesel into my car. I say, no, I scream hysterically and put the correct nozzle in and show her that then when I click the handle, nothing happens. And she goes, waddles back to the till inside the shop, obviously clicks the right switch, and I top up. Yes, I know it can happen anywhere to anyone, but it only ever happens to me in Spain. This, to me, is a very typical of the Spanish attitude. They never can get it quite right. What can you do?
I hate Spain and I hate the Spanish. Actually, I don't. I quite like bits of Spain and bits of the Spanish. But there's lots of things I don't like about it. If you want to watch a show about liking Spain and all the good things, watch Michael Portillo. I don't like the language, I don't like much of the food, but most of all, I don't like the Spanish mentality, which to me is guaranteed to annoy and irritate you.
Well, that's it for show 1. We've taken you all the way from London West 2 to France, through Paris and Biarritz,
over the Pyrenees to Spain. I hope you've enjoyed following us and will enjoy the next show. The victim has bitten back. This has been A Victim Bites Back.